Welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about villains, specifically how to write great ones. Why is this so important? Because your antagonist is often the engine that drives your entire story forward. A great story needs great conflict, and the source of that conflict, more often than not, is your villain. They are the ones who create the problems your protagonist must solve. They are the force that tests your hero, pushing them to grow, to change, and to become the person they need to be by the end of the book. Without a compelling antagonist, your hero's journey can feel empty and unearned. A weak villain leads to a weak story. It's that simple. Think of your villain as a mirror for your hero. They reflect the hero's struggles, but often show a different path, a darker choice that could have been made. The villain's actions force the hero to define who they are and what they stand for. If your antagonist is just a generic force of evil, a shadowy figure who wants to destroy the world for no clear reason, then the hero's opposition to them is just as generic. But if your villain is complex, with understandable, perhaps even sympathetic motivations, then the hero's struggle becomes far more interesting. The conflict becomes a clash of ideologies, not just a simple fight between good and evil. This dynamic is what creates tension. It's what keeps readers turning the pages late into the night. They want to see how the hero will overcome such a formidable, intelligent and motivated opponent. The villain sets the stakes. If the villain is capable and clever, the danger feels real. The reader believes the hero might actually fail. This sense of genuine risk is absolutely essential for creating a gripping narrative. A poorly written villain can make the entire plot feel predictable and low stakes, robbing your story of its power and leaving the reader feeling unsatisfied with the eventual climax and resolution. So when you sit down to write, don't treat your villain as an afterthought. Don't just make them the bad guy. Give them the same care and attention you give your protagonist. Spend time developing their backstory, their desires, and their worldview. Because in many ways, the strength of your hero is measured by the strength of the villain they must face. A truly memorable hero is often defined by the shadow of a truly memorable villain. Investing in your antagonist is one of the best investments you can make in your story. It pays dividends in every chapter, with every plot twist, and in the final satisfying conclusion. Now, let's discuss a common pitfall: the flat, one-dimensional villain. We've all seen this character. They are evil just for the sake of being evil. They cackle maniacally while tying someone to the train tracks. They want to conquer the world because, well, that's just what villains do. This type of antagonist is often called a cardboard cutout because they lack depth. They feel more like a plot device than a real person. The problem with this is that they are predictable. Readers can see their every move coming from a mile away, and this completely drains the story of any real suspense or intrigue. These cartoonish villains fail to connect with the reader on an emotional level. Because they aren't believable as people, their actions don't carry the same weight. When a complex villain commits a terrible act, we might be horrified, but we also might understand the twisted logic that led them there. This creates a much more powerful and disturbing experience. A flat villain, on the other hand, elicits a much simpler response. Oh, the bad guy is doing a bad thing again. There is no nuance, no moral ambiguity, and therefore no deep engagement from your audience. They become a checklist item rather than a driving force of the narrative. So how do you avoid this? The key is to stop thinking of them as villains and start thinking of them as people. People who are the antagonists of your story, yes, but people nonetheless. Every person has a history, a set of beliefs and reasons for the things they do. Your antagonist is no different. They didn't just wake up one morning and decide to be evil. Something happened in their past. They developed a philosophy. They have a goal they are trying to achieve, and from their perspective, their actions are completely justified. They are the heroes of their own story, a concept we will explore more deeply later on. Consider an example. A villain who simply wants to poison the city's water supply is boring. But what if that villain is a brilliant scientist who believes humanity is a plague on the planet? What if they witnessed a loved one die from a disease caused by industrial pollution? Now, their goal to cleanse the earth, while monstrous, comes from a place of pain and a twisted sense of justice. They aren't just evil. They are a person with a warped but understandable motivation. This simple addition of a why transforms them from a cardboard cutout into a character who feels real, making their conflict with the hero far more compelling. The first step in building a better villain is to give them a clear and understandable goal. This goal should not be to be evil. Evil is a judgment, not a motivation. The goal needs to be something tangible, something specific that they are actively trying to achieve within the story. Perhaps they want to acquire a specific artifact of power. Maybe they want to restore their fallen kingdom to its former glory. Or perhaps they want to create a world of perfect order, even if it means stripping everyone of their free will. The more concrete the goal, the better. It gives the villain a purpose and directs their actions. Once you have the goal, you need to give them a believable motive. This is the why behind their goal. Why do they want the artifact? Why do they want to restore their kingdom? The motive is the emotional engine driving the villain. It's rooted in their backstory and their core beliefs. For example, let's take Magneto from the X-Men comics. His goal is to ensure the dominance of mutants. His motive? He is a survivor of the Holocaust who saw firsthand what happens when one group of people decides to exterminate another. He believes that if he doesn't strike first, humanity will inevitably try to wipe out all mutants. This combination of goal and motive leads directly to justification. In the villain's mind, their actions are not only necessary, but also right. They believe they are making the hard choices that no one else is willing to make. The scientist poisoning the water supply justifies their actions by believing they are saving the planet from a greater evil. Magneto justifies his aggressive stance by seeing it as the only way to prevent a genocide. This internal justification is crucial because it makes the villain act with conviction. They are not conflicted about being evil. They are resolute in their righteousness, which makes them a much more formidable and interesting opponent. So, your step-by-step process should look like this. First, define a specific, active goal. Second, dig into their past and personality to establish a powerful emotional motive for that goal. Third, understand how they use that motive to justify their actions, no matter how terrible those actions may seem to others. If you build your villain from this internal foundation, their behavior will feel consistent and logical, even if it is morally reprehensible. They will cease to be a simple obstacle and will become a true character whose presence elevates the entire narrative. One of the most powerful things you can do as a writer is to fully embrace the idea that your villain is the hero of their own story. This is a fundamental shift in perspective that can, honestly, revolutionize how you write antagonists. Don't write them from the hero's point of view, where they are simply the bad guy. Instead, try to climb inside the villain's head. See the world through their eyes. From their vantage point, they are not the villain at all. They are the protagonist. They are the one with the vision, the courage, and the will to do what is necessary to fix a broken world. From this perspective, it is the hero who is the villain. The hero is the one standing in the way of progress. The hero is the naive fool who doesn't understand the true nature of the world. The hero is the agent of chaos trying to preserve a corrupt and flawed status quo. When your antagonist views the hero in this way, their interactions become electric. It's not just a fight, it's a debate. It's a clash of two opposing, deeply held philosophies, with each side absolutely convinced they are right. This creates a rich, complex conflict that goes far beyond simple punches and explosions. To make this work, you have to give your villain a worldview that is coherent and internally consistent. For example, take Thanos from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His belief is that the universe has finite resources and that life, if left unchecked, will expand until it consumes everything and collapses. His solution, eliminating half of all life, is horrific, but it comes from a logical, albeit ruthless, premise. He sees himself as a savior, making a terrible sacrifice to bring balance and prosperity to the universe. He sees the Avengers as sentimental children who refuse to face the hard truth. He is, without a doubt, the hero of his own story. When you successfully craft a villain who sees themselves as the hero, you open the door to creating moments of genuine empathy. The reader might find themselves, just for a fleeting moment, understanding the villain's point of view. They might even agree with a part of their argument, even if they condemn their methods. This moral grey area is where great storytelling lives. It forces the reader to think and to question their own assumptions. It makes the villain unforgettable, not because of how evil they are, but because of how dangerously close they came to being right. Finally, to make your villain truly memorable, you need to treat them like any other well-rounded character. This means giving them both strengths and weaknesses. A villain who is all-powerful and has no flaws is not only boring, but also makes the hero's victory feel impossible or worse, like a cheap trick. The villain's strengths should be formidable. Maybe they are a brilliant strategist, a charismatic leader, or incredibly powerful in combat. These strengths are what make them a credible threat. They should be good at what they do, often even better than the hero in some respects. However, you must balance these strengths with meaningful flaws. These flaws should be character-based, not just a convenient secret weakness, like a hidden vulnerability to a rare mineral. A great flaw is something that stems from their personality. Perhaps their arrogance makes them underestimate the hero. Maybe their obsession with a particular goal blinds them to a simple solution. Or maybe, despite their ruthlessness, they have a single person they care about, and that love becomes a vulnerability the hero can exploit. These flaws make the villain feel human and provide a logical path for the hero to eventually defeat them. Let's look at Darth Vader. His strengths are immense. He is a master of the Force, a fearsome pilot, and the Emperor's ruthless enforcer. He commands armies and inspires terror throughout the galaxy. For most of the original trilogy, he seems nearly unbeatable. But what is his flaw? It's the tiny spark of humanity left inside him, his buried love for his son. It is this flaw, this single emotional vulnerability, that ultimately leads to his downfall and redemption. The Emperor's failure to account for this human element is what allows the heroes to win. The flaw was perfectly integrated with his character arc. So as you finalize your villain, give them a balance of power and vulnerability. Make them excel in ways that challenge your hero, but give them a human failing that makes their defeat feel earned. The ultimate goal is to create an antagonist who feels like a real person, a person twisted by their beliefs and motives, but a person nonetheless. They should be powerful, intelligent, and driven. They should believe they are the hero, and they should have flaws that make them tragically, compellingly human. Do this, and your villain will not only serve your story, but will also linger in the minds of your readers long after they've finished the last page.